Hey guys, it's Stereo Police with another video. Today's Sunday, uh, February 3rd, Super Bowl Sunday. And it's morning time, and just felt like making a video, but I have nothing really to make it about except for something that came to my mind last night. But I'll honor that thought in about 10 minutes because I've got some other things that I feel like talking about. None of which is really equipment specific or equipment related. I have no reviews, I have no sound samples. So if you're looking for that, don't waste your time watching the video and then complaining later that it was boring. So this is all just talk. All right. And for the 5 or 6 of you guys that appreciate the talk, that's why I'm doing it. For the rest of you guys who tell me it was boring, you're getting seasick from my camera and all that, well, don't watch it. That's okay. All right. First of all, the workbench is getting a little lonely. I need a project. And I haven't figured out what that's going to be yet. But I'm thinking about building some full range speakers. And I'll get to that in a later video. There's something about the combination of Class A amplifiers and full range speakers that is just unique in the audio world. That combination. And I'd like to experiment with that in the near future. Now, let's see here. Let's go into the other room and get my tripod here. And of course, Jasper is joining me today. It is a very cold day. It's been, where I live, it's been in the teens, in the low 20s for about a week. Okay, so here's my current system. The Klipsch Cornwall 3s. The TIAC NT503, I love it. The Yamaha AS 1100, one of the best amplifiers ever made on the planet. That's right. My Project Carbon. With the Blue Point number 2. Nice Yamaha tuner from the 70s. And that's it. And I'm loving it. And I'll get to that in just a minute. Been really, that Blue Point number 2 has been really sucking me into vinyl lately, and rediscovering vinyl. It's just been awesome. Been going to a local record store. We have a few of them. And I just love, I just purchased this yesterday. It was one of my favorite albums from decades ago. I don't know how long ago it came out, but they have this special edition. It's just so cool that you get, you know, unlike with digital, with vinyl, you get something you can touch and feel, and pictures and liner notes and artwork. You know, different folds and flaps and came with a book. Haven't even looked at it yet. You know, just pictures and then 3 discs, 3 albums, and this. Okay. Well, no thanks. No thanks on the MP3. You can keep it. All right. You know what's funny about albums? I just thought of this. Back in the day, you know, I'm going to say my day, back in the day means different things to different people. Back in my day, late 70s, early 80s, my heyday, when I was still collecting albums, I remember when this one came out. And it's just interesting how pictures, you don't get photos and liner notes and all those things. You don't get them with digital, and with CDs, they were shrunk down so small you couldn't even see them. But it's funny how just pictures and just touch and feel of things, and being able to having to place a tone arm on a specific groove to find a specific song. You always knew what side. First of all, you knew the names of the songs, and then like what side of the album they were and what track number they were, and you just had to memorize that. You just come to know it because you had to physically do something to play a song. And with digital, hell, sometimes I like songs and I can't even remember the name of them. I mean, I don't know, you just put them on, and you listen to the album and you like a song somewhere in the middle of it, but you don't ever have to look at the name, really, if you're just listening. But it's funny how certain albums, I'm sure everyone's this way who's into audio and music, certain albums of your youth, especially of your youth, had such a major influence, impact on you. And this is one of them right here. Zenyatta Mandata. And one of the photos on this album, there's a couple of them inside. The sleeve has just tons of little photos. And I remember when I was a kid, just preteen, teenager, I don't know what I was, looking at all these things, and they were just so cool. Rock musicians were just so awesome. And just looking at pictures like this one, Stewart. And then listening to Stewart on this album, some of the most unique drumming I had ever heard. And I'm not, this album almost single-handedly just got me to dive head over heels into drumming. And I played drums for many years. I still have my drum set back there tucked away. And I'm not a very good drummer, but I just enjoy it. Just something about Stewart's drumming just sucked me right in. And this particular album, wow. I just, and I'm not really into the, I love Bonham, and I love Neil Peart of Rush, and Ginger Baker, and all, a lot of the greats. They all have their own unique styles, but something about Stewart that was just so incredibly different and so unique that no one else can come close to it. It's amazing. See, this has really nothing to do with what I want to talk about, but I'm just re-exploring vinyl, and it's so neat to have something to look at. This right here, actually, I pulled out an old Yes album, Fragile, and this was in the album. Just really cool. Sit there listening to music and flipping through these and reading some of this stuff. Look at that groovy 70s stuff right there. Mushrooms, and wow, these guys were so talented. Oh yeah, another great drummer. Bill Bruford. Amazing. Anyway, I'm really into drums. Alright, so let me get to what I wanted to talk about. Kind of segueing from musicians, not really vinyl so much, but musicians, into something I was thinking about last night. And I'll go ahead and put this camcorder on a tripod so I don't make you seasick, and start talking about a little bit about philosophy. Okay, I'm going to sit behind the camcorder here, so hopefully it picks up my voice, not from a distance, but so it sounds like it's right here. But anyway, so last night, well, let me just start out by saying something that's self-evident or axiomatic, at least I hope, that there is no one objective standard for judging the quality or superiority of your audio system. Now that's self-evident. There's none. People may have opinions, and believe me, in any hobby, amongst the elites, opinions are disparate and plentiful. Okay, but there's really, in at least in audio, as well as with many other hobbies, there's just no one objective standard for achievement, for superiority. Now, with respect to musicians, and I'm going to sort of tie all this in later because this is kind of what I was thinking about last night, and I'm not sure how well I'll succeed at tying this all in. It was just a thought that I had. If you've ever known musicians, or you are a musician, you know that musicians will tweak their instruments, they'll upgrade them, they'll tune them, and ultimately, most likely, finally fall in love with the uniqueness or attributes of one or more of their instruments. And they'll have a favorite guitar, a favorite ride cymbal, a favorite violin, a favorite bass drum, a go-to instrument, one they like to use almost all the time. Or, some drummers will have the same drum kit throughout their careers. I remember with the Police tour a few years back, I don't know when that was, but when they reunited, Stuart Copeland brought his ride cymbal that he used back in the early 80s. He still had it. It just had the sound he liked, that uniqueness, that quality. Now, lately, down here, this is my room, my listening room, and I spend almost every evening down here, and many times I'm with friends, or with just my wife and myself, or my nephew, my wife, me, and we're always, if we're down here, then the stereo is on, and we're listening to something. Sometimes it's the tuner, a radio station. Sometimes it's Spotify. Sometimes it's lately it's been spinning vinyl. And last night I was down here with my wife. We were having a conversation, and I was spinning vinyl. I purchased 2 Cars albums yesterday. We listened to both of them as we talked, and then I put on that Postal Service album that I just didn't finish. That one, it's 3 discs, but and as we were listening, it was all background music. In fact, the majority of listening I do is background, because we have people down here and we're talking. But it doesn't matter. Every now and then there'd be a pause in the conversation, and I just, I would just be listening to the music, and it would bring a smile to my face. It was just so good. Even at low levels, it was just so good. It sounded so good. And part of that is the vinyl. Vinyl has really sucked me in. There's just an X factor with respect to vinyl, that there's something so organic about it and natural about it. And it's not something I can describe in words. But especially at low levels in background listening, it just sounds better. And I cannot describe it. I don't know what it is. But anyway, just that low level listening, and whenever there's a pause in the conversation and you hear the music, and it just sounds so good and so fulfilling. And occasionally, when my wife would go upstairs to freshen up the cocktail, I would sit, I'd move over to the sweet spot between the Cornwall threes and crank it up to near concert levels. And wow. As good as my system sounded at lower levels, it just, especially with these Cornwall threes, when you get up to concert levels, it's just so good. There's no compression. It's just, everything sounds great, and dynamics, and the bass, everything is. And now that I have that new cartridge, that new phono cartridge that solved the bass problem, it's so well balanced. It's just amazing. So undistorted, so dynamic, and it does take the breath away sometimes. It's just phenomenal. And, it kind of just passed through my mind that, what I'm listening to here is a system. Yes, the Cornwall Threes play a majority role in the system, but I'm sitting here listening to a record on the Project Carbon Classic turntable through the Sumiko Blue Point number 2 cartridge and through the Yamaha AS 1100 and ultimately through the Cornwall 3s. It's a system. It's a synergistic combination of components. And I just love it, and throughout my life I've always enjoyed experimenting and upgrading and moving and downgrading, and at some points I had no system and then I got another, but this is by far my absolute favorite system. And I've mentioned the word nirvana or audio nirvana before, and this is it for me. So it's just such a good place to be. Now, as good as I think that I find this system to be, as good as it sounds to me, it's close to perfection as I could ever ask. I fully realize that perhaps another audiophile, another audio person, another person with their own unique tastes and people who seek their own distinctive sounds and seek to achieve whatever it is they want to achieve might come in and critique this system. Perhaps a technical aspect. I've had people say in some of my comments, "Hey, you've got those Cornwall 3s. What are you doing? You really need a good tube. You really need good tube amplification. You need a good tube amplifier and vacuum tube preamp." And I've mentioned this before, but I scratch my head and I think, why? Why do I need that? What's that going to do? I mean, I'm as happy as I can be with this. Why do I want that? As if there's some requisite, some requirement that, hey, you've got horn speakers, you need tube equipment. Well, some audiophiles might critique the speakers and listen to them and go, oh, no, you need ribbon tweeters for this aspect, or you need electrostatic speakers to achieve the blah, blah, blah audio gibberish, whatever. Well, I say bullshit. This is my system. I love it. And by the way, I'm saying I, me, because I'm talking about my system, but the same thing applies to you. So my video is just I'm not trying to make this all about me. I'm talking about you and your system as well when I say I. So I say bullshit. My system, I just love the way it reproduces sound. Every aspect, from top to bottom, left to right, back and forth. And so I was just kind of thinking last night that, just one of those very quick thoughts. It just crosses the mind, for 3 seconds and you move on. I'm making an entire video about a 3-second thought that I had last night. And I'm not saying it's that profound, it's just a thought. So, I was just thinking, your system itself, everything, from the source to the speakers, even to include the room, is a musical instrument. Again, not that profound, just a thought that I had. And your system cannot help but to have its own character. It cannot help but to contribute its own collective sonic signature to the sound reproduction, to the reproduction of the sound. Especially the speakers, of course, and the room. And, musical instruments come in all varieties. Strings, brass, percussion, horn section. All of these instruments are devices that produce sound in different ways. And they all have their own sonic signatures. and they can be changed. You could change the strings on a guitar, change the material of the strings. Nickel versus stainless steel. You can change the wood that a violin is made of. You can change the resonant cavity geometry of a guitar or a violin. You can change the wood on a drum. You can change the drum head, the drum geometry, cymbal shape. The list goes on and on. They all have their own unique signatures. Loudspeakers are especially musical instruments. You can change the driver material, the wood of a speaker, the size of the resonant cavity, the port geometry of a speaker, and so on. Speakers are incredibly unique. And, a similar analogy could be made with respect to a phono cartridge as well. Some musical instruments involve amplification, electric guitars. Synthesizers involve computer processing, as do some audio components. And, just like we talked about, musicians will tweak and upgrade and finally fall in love, get married to a certain instrument that they use throughout their careers, or a good portion of them. Collectively, your system is a musical instrument. It has its own unique character. And once you've achieved, and that's kind of my thought last night, is wow, I've achieved this system that, to my ears, I have no flaws. I love it. It's my favorite guitar. It's my favorite bass drum. It's the one that I want to play in every concert. And so collectively, your system is a musical instrument, and it's yours. Once you've tweaked and upgraded, and you've achieved that synergy, perfect combination of components, it's yours. It's unique. And it's your favorite musical instrument. And if it's yours and it makes you happy, then there's no real need to concern yourself with some mysterious, unachievable, untenable standard that perhaps some elitist audiophiles might say you need to achieve. Just be happy and enjoy. Because there can be miseries in this hobby. I've experienced that. But it's your musical instrument, and that's not to say that it's not part of the hobby to want to upgrade, to want to experiment, and or to improve. But through all that, I think the goal is to get to that point where you can sit there and into your own ears you can say, I'm there. I'm listening at low levels and it brings a smile to my face. I'm listening at concert levels and everything is right on. To my ears, it's what I love. It's my favorite musical instrument. And it's got its own character, but it's what I love. And certainly I'm coming to you today from a history of experimentation. But I'm also coming to you from the rare perspective or rare position of having achieved what I would call audio self-actualization. And, thank you, Mr. Maslow, for explaining to me what I've achieved. And it's a good place to be. And it's also a good place to be, not to be wanting more and not to be miserable in any aspect. And I'm there and I'm thankful for that. Not to say I won't experiment in the future, but it's just a good place to be, and it's and just to tie it all again together, that quick thought that I had. Your audio system is a musical instrument. It's going to have its own character, but it's yours. It's unique, and as long as you love it, that's all that counts. opinions of elitist and elite and wannabe audiophiles be damned. Doesn't matter. Anyway, thanks for watching. I don't even know what I'm going to title this video, because it's a little video about little to nothing. Just a brief thought that I had last night. Have nothing really else to report, but like I said earlier, in the near future, I always like to be doing something, and I think I like to build things and repair things, and I think I'm going to push in the direction of full range speakers and Class A amplifiers. And I'll tell you why in a future video. And I'm not doing this to substitute or exchange anything for this system right here. Now that I'm here, I want to toy around with subsystems, alternate systems, just for the fun of it, just for the experience. It's all about experiences. And I'll provide more information about that later as to why and the philosophy behind it. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hadn't made a video in a week or so, and figured I'd chime in because I felt like talking today, which is somewhat rare. I'm actually a pretty quiet person. Enjoy Super Bowl. Enjoy the Super Bowl tonight, if you're watching, and I'll see you all in the near future. Ciao.